Hello, this is MuppetSpot, and what you're about to see are two of the previous Talking Loud podcasts we recorded but never posted. I asked Cynic if I could use them for a class project about editing, and he allowed me to edit them. Now, unlike the other podcasts, these won't have a lot of images nor music, as I need something to edit for my class. But now that Talking Loud is over, we decided to release these episodes as bonus episodes. So without further ado, here is the first of the two Talking Loud bonus episodes. Enjoy.
Hello and welcome to Talking Loud. I'm the host, CynicTheCritic, and this is a little bit of a different episode that we have today because we're actually only going to be doing one episode. That's right, but I'm going to be explaining how this is going to be different from our traditional podcast in just a minute. But first, otherwise people are going to think that I'm being rude. So, first off, we have the Anglophile Gamer, aka Vossi.
Hey.
We got Yoshi Player.
The most popular one. Well, at least in terms of YouTubers, anyway.
We have MuppetSpot.
The person who is stuck in stupid hot weather.
And our special guest is someone who is a big Loudhouse fan and is also a fanfic writer. Please welcome that engineer.
Howdy.
Yeah, it's great to have you guys here. So the original plan that we're going to have is that we were going to record our next podcast after really loud music and talk about both episodes. But I figure if we do that, then it wouldn't be too long of a podcast. And I figure maybe we can, and not to mention, like, it would just be kind of hard to see, like, which one will be better, which one's worse, and yada, yada, yada. So that's why I decided that we're going to cover both specials in different podcast episodes. So that way, for each podcast episode, we're going to go more in depth with each special, so which means you're going to break down every single thing that happens. We're all going to be talking about it. So we're sort of like as if we're sort of like narrating to people who haven't seen the episode, which, I mean, if you haven't seen it, then spoilers ahead. But then again, if you listen to this podcast, then you already know that there's spoilers in each podcast we do for all the episodes. So anyways, the special we have for today is the Loudest Thanksgiving. Actually, wait, no, Foul Play. Wait, no. What was it called again? Oh, right, Loudest Thanksgiving.
You read the first time.
Yeah, it had a bit of a name change. It's called Foul Play.
They really do that. They change the specials names a lot. Have you noticed that?
They do. Well, it's not just specials. I think it's other episodes as well.
Yeah, because Middlemen was actually used to be named Lesson Plan before that was.
Yeah, that was just scrapped. So, and then Jeers for Fears wasn't that originally called like
Utter Fear?
Utter Fear,
like
yeah.
Utter Terror.
Right, and then originally like the Loudest Mission Relative Chaos was simply just Relative Chaos, but since it's a Loud House, we gotta put a loud in the title, so let's do the Loudest Mission Relative Chaos.
To be fair, that one never made sense.
Just a dumb title, to be honest.
Okay,
Why did they give it that title? Like, I get it, it's Loud House, but what was wrong with just sticking with Relative Chaos? That would have made so much more sense.
Right, not to mention, I feel like adding that, it's just a mouthful.
Yeah. I usually just call it Relative Chaos anyway.
Yeah.
I think at this point, like, whenever they put most episodes up, at least when the names first come out, that they're always being subject to change up until like probably about a couple weeks before the episode actually aired.
It's basically the executives have to give out the final name change.
Pretty much.
Because they just gotta have the final say in everything, don't they?
Right, like
that's what Sabino told me.
Alright, so anyways, Loudest Thanksgiving. This is an episode that has gotten a lot of hype. A lot of people were very excited for this because this is the episode that was going to be bringing the Loud family and the Casa Grandes together in one 22-minute special. And a lot of people were curious about this. Now, what are your thoughts on the Casa Grande family as a whole? I mean,
I feel like in the earlier days, they were like really enjoyable because like in episodes like, well, we'll get Relative Chaos. When I was introduced to them, I enjoyed them a lot, and even in other episodes like City Slickers, I would have given that episode an average but then the Casa Grandes were there, and that pretty much made up for the whole thing.
Right,
So at
and
first they were like really enjoyable.
right, and yeah, my thoughts on them are mostly the same as yours. I liked them, but I kind of feel like the episode that sort of made me, well, let's not just say the episode, but let's just say what kind of made me start to lose interest in them a little bit was the announcement that, hey, we're gonna have a spin-off series for this. Which, if I'll be honest, I think it was just too early to announce that.
It was just like I
Suppose it
still
was
feel
just
that.
because of the reception of the Casa Grandes themselves. So I guess Nick saw dollar signs in their
Nickelodeon
eyes
doesn't
and thought,
have
"Hey, let's make a
anything
spin-off show."
at this point. What does Nickelodeon have? SpongeBob? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? What else does Nickelodeon have
I
at this
don't
point?
even know. Nick Jr.
Exactly.
Honestly, I still feel Road of Chaos came a bit too early. It felt like something that could have happened like a little bit after season.
Jump Jump said something around those lines as well. I think they just want to put the Casa Grandes. They want to see how well it would do, but we're getting off topic now.
Right. I mean, but on the topic of Relative Chaos, that was a 22-minute special, and I know it's a bit of an unpopular opinion, but that's probably my favorite half-hour special that we've gotten so far in the series. Now, I mean, and part of this is because I'm not really too much of a big fan of the specials. A lot of them I think are just okay.
I mean, you didn't even like 11 Louds of Leaping that much.
Okay, it's not that I didn't like it. I thought it was okay, but I will admit that episode is a little bit overrated.
Yeah, there are most of the specials I think are just okay. Well, I like 11 Louds of Leaping, and Relative Chaos is again my favorite. But then we had Tricked, which was just mediocre, and Trips. Don't even get me started.
Let's not talk about that. And as far as our opinion on this episode goes, we'll explain later in the podcast. But back to our opinion on the Casa Grandes. I feel again after that was announced, my opinion on them kind of dipped a little bit, and then when we had the Spies Who Loved Me, I feel like my opinion on them just kind of dipped a little bit more because it's not that they were bad in the episode, but I just thought they were kind of annoying. Like, I just kind of felt like it had the same effect that would come from, say, okay, you know how whenever we get like episodes like Heavy Metal where all the sisters act super protective and want to like protect Lincoln and whatnot, and that's the sort of thing I don't really like. I get it, they're siblings, they're looking out for each other, but I don't know, I just couldn't stand seeing that. That's kind of like how I felt about the Casa Grandes in that episode. It's like a lot of their personalities I thought were taken away. I mean, even I'll admit that who's it, Carlos, the little kid who has a crush on Lori, he was actually amusing in that episode, but I don't know, it just kind of felt like a lot of their personalities were taken away, and they were just like, we are really concerned for Ronnie Ann, we want to make sure she doesn't get hurt and whatnot, and all that kind of stuff.
Well, this is something that's honestly been a problem with this show, that sometimes they'll make multiple characters act as one single person, which honestly I don't feel is actually a good idea as far when it comes to plot relevance.
Yeah.
But then again, each episode tends to be only 11 minutes, so I guess that's just their way of trying to cram in all these characters in such a short period.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and I feel like they do this because the plot says so. They're doing it because the plot says that this is how they're supposed to behave, so they're just following along what the story says. Which I get it, but even then, again, I'm not really too big of a fan of it. And I know that a lot of people really like The Spies Who Loved Me, but my opinion still stands. I just didn't care for that episode. It's not bad, but it's not really what I'm going to remember. And that was
one was that?
That was the one where Ronnie Ann wanted to go to the city. The family was like, no, it's too dangerous. And then they follow her.
I mean, to be fair, I understand their concerns, though, because cities can be dangerous. I mean, heck, where I live. I mean, it's not exactly, it doesn't really happen in downtown, but more like Southeast DC, where I tend to hear a lot of shootings be happening and whatnot. So I can understand the concern about that.
Right, I get it. It's the concern that's going on, but I feel like the problem I have with that episode is that Ronnie Ann never really seems like she's in any danger, which would have been a little bit more believable, and it just kind of makes it seem like the family's just in over their heads, which, like you said, in real life, that wouldn't make much sense, because like you said, the city can be dangerous, and yet this episode doesn't really show Ronnie Ann in much danger. And I feel like they did that just so they can kind of prove, like, Ronnie Ann can take care of herself. But and then like after that we had Misconnection, which I did like them in that episode. I thought that them along with the other side characters were the highlight of that episode, but that's just me.
But pizza was the best.
Okay, that Bud Pizza thing was funny. And now we're here with Loudest Thanksgiving, which is now the episode where the two worlds come together. And it's for a Thanksgiving special.
Gobble gobble.
So what? Okay, so what are your opinion? What's your opinion on Thanksgiving specials as a whole?
Yeah, I think it's sort of make or break. I mean, sometimes they focus on different aspects of Thanksgiving because in some shows, they'll focus on everyone getting together for this big feast, and sometimes they'll go into like the history around Thanksgiving and whatnot. So it really just depends.
I kind of like the more mean-spirited Thanksgiving episodes, like It's Sunny in Philadelphia one, the Sunny in Philadelphia one.
Well, yeah. Well, I think that probably works because Thanksgiving is played up more as a backdrop. Whereas I kind of feel like for a Thanksgiving special you find from like a kids cartoon, it's more about expressing what the holiday really means to families and whatnot. Which, I mean, for me, I'm with that engineer. They're make or break for me. I just like it can work or it cannot work. Which, for me, I think what makes the best Thanksgiving special, in my opinion, is when they don't play up the holiday as, like, the main focus, but more so have it be a backdrop to the characters with the situations going on. Like, you should have it like in, say, you have a plot that involves a certain Thanksgiving food that's being made, or a certain family member coming because of the holiday, and then just kind of, like, play off of that and use the characters to kind of, like, interact and have, like, a funny story along with it. Which, for me, I think the best example of Thanksgiving specials that I really enjoy come from the series Friends, which they've had a Thanksgiving special, I think, for almost every season, I believe, and almost all of them I can say that I absolutely love, and I think they are hilarious. I can still go back to them to this day and still enjoy them, but that's just me. And the only other Thanksgiving special I know of is the one for Charlie Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes, that one.
Which the only thing I remember is, like, I don't know, like, they didn't have the Thanksgiving food, so they had to come up with a bunch of snacks to eat for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, plus Lucy pulls away the football.
Right, because, like, I remember I saw that special in elementary school, and for the life of me, I don't remember much of it. So, but, yeah, I say all this because now it's to lead into Loudest Thanksgiving, which... Fun fact, the episode, like, for both acts of the episode, they're storyboarded by two different people. Act 1 is storyboarded by Ari Castleton, and Act 2 is storyboarded by Darian McGowan. Just figure I might point that out. Because I thought that was kind of interesting. So...
It doesn't usually happen a lot, does it?
Right, because usually we get, like, 1, maybe 2 storyboard artists per episode.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
So having like a separate storyboard artist for each act in a half-hour special, I thought that was an interesting fact. So, okay. So we start off Loudest Thanksgiving where it opens at Flip's Food and Fuel, and this is where Flip is just getting something out of the microwave, and he's talking to the fourth wall saying like, I'm going to tell you a story about the Louds and Casa Grandes coming for Thanksgiving. And so they pretty much set it up that he's going to be the narrator. What'd you guys think of this?
I like this actually. Like I kind of like how, even though at first I was kind of wondering, why is he the narrator? Why would he suddenly care about the Louds and Casa Grandes? But then it's revealed at one point.
Right.
I don't want to get to that, but I'll talk more about that when we get to it. But I kind of liked how he was the narrator. It's kind of a little bit of a surprise for me.
Yeah, same for me too. Like, I thought the addition of Flip was one of the best parts of the episode. And usually whenever Flip does appear in an episode, I usually do think he usually ends up being the best part of the episode. I just find him really amusing, and also part is because I think John DiMaggio was just great.
I would honestly, it's just my opinion, but I don't like Flip too much. In part because he kind of reminds me of Mr. Krabs, sort of like the more like not like the early seasons of Mr. Krabs, but more like the part of the season where he started just becoming a complete.
Right, where he pretty much would just do things that would be considered illegal.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, it doesn't bother me as much, mainly because he's played up as more of a minor character, whereas I think for Mr. Krabs, he's played up as more of a main character in SpongeBob. So like for Flip, it's like he's really only there for like a scene or two, and rarely does he play a side character. I think the last time he played a side character was in Net Games, which he also ended up being the best part of that episode for me. So, all right, yeah, John DiMaggio is funny. Thank you, Muppet. If you can't hear him right now, it's because he said that he's on a bus. So we'll continue on and wait, and we'll just continue on, and then he'll just join us when he gets back on. So, all right. So then we pretty much flash back to Lori getting home. She's having a video chat with Bobby, and they're pretty much like going on about like, oh, my families are doing this for Thanksgiving. This is what we're doing and whatnot. This is where we end up. And this is where like we kind of get that same thing that we got from 11 Months Sleeping, where we get these kind of subplots where like almost every single family member is like kind of like involved in a little bit of a story of their own, or a joke that's kind of played up in the episode. So the first one we get is Lynn wearing a pair of baggy sweatpants so she can wet herself at any time so she won't miss out on eating or watching the game.
The fact that it wasn't even 90 seconds that happened, I'm just like, oh my god, we're doing this already.
Right, it's like, which, funny enough, like in the promos, we actually saw Lynn in like some baggy sweatpants, and I was like, wait, why is she wearing that? Like Muppet's theory was that she had those baggy sweatpants so she can hide food in there, which I was like, wait, why would she hide food in there? Who would she give it to? So I thought that was kind of weird. And then my theory was, oh, is this because she needs the big pants so that way she can eat the whole turkey? Because like she's gonna need the room because like she's gonna be full and whatnot. That's what I kind of thought, because they did this with Friends with one episode, which I thought was funny how they did it. Of course, when we end up learning the episode, I'll admit I thought it was gross. I thought it was that's like,
what do you expect?
Right. I mean, but then again, at this point now, I'm just not really gonna get on board with Lynn's gross humor. If you find it funny, that's cool, but I don't know. It's just not for me.
Anyway, moving on from that.
Right. But even then, that doesn't really make much sense. Like, wet herself at any time. It's like, okay, so you don't want to go to the bathroom during dinner and then during the game?
Well, Muppet said that Ashley Shinlin wear diapers, so I'm gonna guess that she probably was wearing something under those sweatpants, just so probably because her shorts are too small for her to be wearing.
Right.
No.
Okay, we're gonna move on from that because the less I want to spend on that, the better.
We don't want to waste time on Lynn.
Okay, so then we get Lynn Sr. cooking all the food, and he's cooking all I think he even said that he made a turkey with two other turkeys inside of it. What was it, like a mega turkey?
It's like, yeah, I know.
It had like a turkey inside a turkey inside a turkey, which I don't even think that's possible, but it's a cartoon, so. And then we get Lana and Lola kind of playing up that hall monitor thing they did from Get the Message, which I thought that was kind of amusing. I was like, oh, they're bringing that back.
Yeah, it was like a nice callback.
Yeah, it was. I was glad they brought that back, and for the story, I thought it made sense. And then we also see where Lincoln is trying to come up with a way to stay awake, because apparently he has a thing where after he eats Thanksgiving dinner, he ends up falling asleep and misses dessert. So now he's like, okay, I'm going to come up with a way to stay awake. And I don't know, I thought that was kind of amusing. Because I think we've all sort of been there at some point where after we've eaten, we're either too full to have dessert, or we just end up falling asleep. Then we end up missing dessert.
Well, I wouldn't know because I don't celebrate Thanksgiving.
Oh, right. The Aussie here doesn't celebrate it.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
It's just tradition.
Well, if you want my advice, best thing you can do is just pick what you want to eat, because that food ain't gonna be going anywhere for the next like 5 days. So just pace yourself a little bit. That way you have some room for dessert.
That's actually something I kind of wish that they did in the episode, is kind of bring up the whole thing of like, well, you're gonna have so much food, you're probably gonna have leftovers, because that's like one of the things that anybody who's had Thanksgiving dinner knows, is that when you make Thanksgiving dinner, you're gonna end up having leftovers for like a good week or two.
Yep.
I mean, that usually happens for me. It's like, we have so much food, we don't eat it all, so let's just have it for leftovers.
Jeez, Muppet, how much food do you eat?
He probably eats a lot. I don't know. Okay, so then we get to the Casa Grande side, and we see that Rosa, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, is cooking the food, and she wants to make sure nobody eats it. And they kind of play up the fact that she doesn't need a security guard; she's her own security guard. Again, I thought that was a little amusing. And then we have Frida working on her yearly Thanksgiving painting, and then Hector's trying to come up with a song on his guitar. Which, okay, I didn't realize that Hector was the musical one. I thought he was the one that ran the bodega, but I guess he also is the music family member as well. So I didn't know that.
You know, it really surprised me.
I was gonna nitpick something, but I don't know 100% how true it is.
Oh, what is it?
Because I looked at Buñuelos, or how you pronounce it, which I should know how to pronounce it because I know Spanish. But they were around, but they were like portrayed as more flat, so I don't know if they can be flat, or is it just like, seriously? I don't know. It's me nitpicking cultural and linguistic stuff. It's whatever. Not
Right.
as important as it would be.
Right. Go ahead.
Buñuelos, so.
You know what really surprised me though? Apparently that Ronnie and CJ were actually doing a canned food.
Yes, they did. And this is like, yeah, which honestly, I feel like this is a subplot that, this is like, I think one of the few subplots that they kind of focus on kind of throughout the episode. And I was like, okay, I get the sentiment. It's sort of like shedding light on donating food to people on Thanksgiving who don't have the money to do it. But I don't know, this is just one of those subplots I just didn't care for all that much. Even though, again, I get the sentiment behind it.
I think it would have been a good episode if they kind of focused on it a little bit.
Right, but moving on from that, so then after that, then the two were having a conversation, and then that's when each family member kind of overhears like one thing, and then like Lori and Bob are like, "What if I spend Thanksgiving with you?" "No, what if I spend Thanksgiving with you?" And then of course the two families here, and then that's when it's like, okay, we got to make sure like we get Lori and Bobby to make sure they stay with us. And essentially the rest of the episode, the rest of the first half of the episode essentially is each family guilt tripping Lori and Bobby. And they're pretty much like, "Oh, Thanksgiving just wouldn't be the same without you. We wouldn't be able to do this. And you've been gone for so long. I want to be with you again." It's like,
You know, that's like that one. There was one party episode where I think they're okay. Now you guys are really just going overboard.
right. This is where I kind of run into like. Go ahead, Yoshi.
It's just, it's like, I get it. You want to establish the fact that the family doesn't want Lori to leave, or how they don't want Bobby to leave.
They don't want to ruin the tradition.
You didn't need to waste like the rest of the 5 minutes on this joke because, well, first off, I didn't think it was very funny, but it drags on. I just want to get to the main plot. And it takes like 10 minutes before we actually get what the premise was promising us, which is the Louds and Casa Grandes meeting each other. But no, we gotta wait 10 fucking minutes before we can get to it.
Oh wow, you're already going off.
Jeez. Just give us a break. Just get on with it.
I mean, honestly, this wouldn't bother me as much if I found it amusing. But the problem is, like, I found a lot of these scenes just very boring. It's like they kind of just have the same setup. They're pretty much like trying to make Lori and Bobby feel like they're going to miss out on the tradition and whatnot, make them feel guilty for what they want to do. And I just didn't really find the scenes amusing. And not to mention, there's one animation error in particular, which I mean, I know Muppet wants to talk about the animation.
I think we should wait until like the very end because the animation is kind of like as a whole. So I think we should just like get through the plot first.
Right, okay.
And then talk about everything that happened all throughout, like the animation.
Right, okay. Like, there were, like, some weird jokes. Like, there's one where Lucy was reciting this poem where it's like, without Lori here, all that's going to be is just some of her hair. And then she cuts off some of her hair and puts it on the chair. I was like, I don't get it. It's like, I mean, I get the scene itself. You want to make Lori feel guilty, but I'm like, what's the joke here? I don't get it. But anyways, it's now at this point where Lori and Bobby are like, okay, cut the bullshit. I know what you're doing. All right, what? And then like that's when they end up explaining like, okay, we overheard what you're doing, and we don't want you to spend Thanksgiving with the Casa Grandes or spend Thanksgiving over at the Louds and all that kind of stuff. And so that's when I don't know who comes up with the idea. Bless you.
Thank you.
And so that okay, so then that's when they come up with the idea of, hey, why don't we spend Thanksgiving together? So of course after a coin flip, it's decided that they're all going to spend at the Louds, and then that's when we get into Act 2, which is where we finally get into what the episode promised, which is like, okay, they're coming together. What's going to happen? So that's when we get into... Okay, so before I get into Act 2, what are any other final thoughts you have on Act 1?
They overhyped Lily Turkey.
Okay, thank you for pointing that out, Lily Turkey. At this point now, I feel like putting Lily in a costume is just easy marketing for each new episode. It's like, you want to... like, I even said this on TV now. I was like, here's a good way to get people excited for an episode. Put Lily in a costume. It'll work.
Yeah, why not? She's cute.
Yeah, she's cute, but it's cute for like a couple seconds, then it's like, alright. And I kind of feel like for this episode, they sort of like, I don't want to say it's a running joke, it's more of like a running awe moment. Or, I don't know. I can't really think of
I
a
also
word
find
for
the
it.
turkey costume that she was wearing to look a little unfinished. I don't know if this was a result of the animation, but I don't know, it just looked a little off to me.
Which is weird because I think, I'm assuming this is probably the most expensive episode of the series since you have 2 cast members of different shows together. So it's like, it probably cost them a lot of money to do this.
Maybe.
Anyway, as for my final thoughts on the first half, I feel like it set itself up alright, but the rest of it is boring as fuck because that whole running gag of them trying to convince Laurie and Bobby to stay is just tired me out.
Right.
I just wanted to get to the main plot already.
Again, I think it could have worked. I just thought that how it was executed just made it come off as very tedious and boring.
That's what I'm saying. It started off with a promise. Like, when it first started, I was like, okay, this could be something interesting. But then we get that gag, it's like, oh wow, I know where we're going with this.
Right.
You know, when you think about it, like a lot of Loud House episodes, they tend to avoid, you know how they seem to draw out a plot just simply because the characters are avoiding like the simplest solution to a problem.
Right. Yeah. The simple solution, which we'll get to at the end of the episode, which we'll get to later, but this is something they do a lot. They often repeat scenes or just kind of like repeat jokes for like a good minute or two to kind of like fill up the runtime. And I've been noticing they've been doing this a lot, especially lately in season 3. And again, I wouldn't be bothered by this if it wasn't for the fact that these scenes just kind of come off as boring.
Or if they were actually funny.
Right. So, moving... Vossi, you've been really quiet. You don't have anything to say?
Yeah, I think I'm just kind of like... Because I rewatched her, I'm like, I'm probably going to have nothing to add. So...
Alright,
besides the Buñuelos mark and some other stuff.
Okay, so now we go on to Act 2, and then this is where we end up going back to Flip, who's then kind of like going on to tell about the story, and this is where the Louds are setting up the decorations and whatnot, and we get like a few jokes, like we get one where Rita's like, Lenny, aren't you putting a leaf on the table? And then she's like, hello, and points on the table, and then we get like 2-3 seconds of silence, and I'm like, wait, that's a joke? Okay, I'm probably gonna come off as a total
idiot.
I'm gonna come off as a total dumbass, but I didn't get the joke. I mean, no, I get that the joke is supposed to be where Lenny's dumb, but I'm like, a leaf on the table. Is that supposed to be a decoration for Thanksgiving that's traditional or something?
It's either that or that's a real leaf you picked up from.
Right,
it's very common for a joke to not be funny, but to have a joke I don't get at all. Like,
that just
what?
makes it worse.
I was so confused.
And again, they obviously were setting this up to be a joke, because then after she says that, it's like 2 seconds of silence. So it's like, oh, they're doing this so you can process the joke and get it.
If someone knows the joke, could you please explain in the comments, because I don't get it.
I'm sure somebody knows and they'll tell us, but anyways.
Probably.
Then we get one where it's like, Lola, you're supposed to get a picture of Lori and Bobby. And then she's like, I did. And it's like Lola sending a picture. Going back, I'm like, okay, that's actually an amusing joke. I like that one.
Yeah, that was pretty moderately amusing, and that's not just Lola bias talking. Okay, yeah. It kind of is.
I was like, yeah, that's typical of Lola to do that. So, yeah, and then I forgot, were there a few other parts in that episode? Like, during that scene of, like, any other jokes that I might have missed? Oh, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, sorry. Like, for some reason, my Discord just randomly shut off and came back on. But anyways, um, were there any other jokes during that scene that I might have missed? I'm not really sure.
I couldn't really care.
Right. Anyways, so then that's when the Casa Grandes come in, and then that's when they're like, they welcome them in, and since it's the Casa Grandes and Loud, we end up getting our token Ronikin moment, which I'll admit, this moment between the two where like they kind of playfully punch each other and smile, and they're like, "Hey, lameo." I was like, okay, that I'll admit that is kind of cute. Because like, if we get more Lincoln and Ronnie and moments like this that are showing them as friends, then I'm fine with that. My issue,
at least
my issue I
at
have
least
with this is
Lincoln
people blowing this out of proportion and making it seem like as if it's the most romantic thing ever. Like, oh my god, it's so cute.
Relative chaos never happened, buddy.
That's just the fandom for you. It's like whenever they see a moment like this, they'll have the main reason to love this episode. Because look, they're hanging out as a couple. Oh, that's so cute. Like,
Right,
get over it.
I'm
Grow
just
up.
saying. I'm just saying this interaction between them as friends was cute. It's not romantic, but cute. And
I like it more when they're interacting as friends.
right. I feel like seeing this moment, and then even like their video conversation from Loudest from Spice Who Loved Me. Even though I thought that subplot with Lincoln was pointless, their interactions between each other, they weren't bad. But anyways, yeah. So the Casa Grandes come in, and then like they kind of like start this thing where like the Louds have like this Thanksgiving tradition where they have this this court case thing with Lori as the judge, the siblings as the jury, and Lily as a turkey. Which again, I'm probably gonna come off as a total moron, but how does this relate to Thanksgiving? Is this like something that's like a Thanksgiving story that's traditional or something? Like, I didn't get it.
Well, this was also something that they just came up with at the last minute.
Right. I was seeing this. I'm like, okay, this has to be a reference to some sort of Thanksgiving story because I don't get it. And just watching that, I mean, honestly, I didn't really find that scene all that amusing. I honestly kind of felt like it was there because, like you said, it felt last minute. And we have to shove in Lily as a turkey because, people will find it adorable.
I think Muppet once said that she looked more like a chicken.
She did, yes. That's what I did because I'm like, wait, aren't turkeys supposed to be brown?
Usually, sometimes they'll be. I think they sometimes might be white. I'm not too sure.
Right, and what's even worse is like they were kind of setting this up to be like, okay, we're gonna have this jury scene, and then they end up doing like an 83 minutes later thing, and we don't even see anything going on. I'm just like, so what was the point of that? I feel like
You can't just set up a scene and then completely skip it.
Right, it's like yeah, set this up. I want to see what's gonna happen, and then I don't see anything happen.
Well, if you know, it's even made less sense what the Casa Grandes did immediately afterward.
Right, and I kind of feel like the only reason why they had that was just so they can set up this competition thing between the two to be like, oh, you're doing a family tradition? Well, my family tradition is better, which essentially runs throughout the second half of the episode, but we'll go more into detail on that in a little bit. But then we have the Casa Grandes thinking that they can do better, so then that's when they have like this Thanksgiving song, and then Lori's going along, and they're pretty much showing that both Lori and Bobby are enjoying this, and it's kind of making things worse between the two. So now it's like, oh, we are so going to outdo them. And then that's when they have dinner, and that's when they're bickering even more, because then you have Linsinger and Rosa being like, try this food. No, try this food. And they just stuff it up with more food and whatnot. And then we have Rita and go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm like, so when can I eat?
Right, and then like they have this thing where it's like Rita's gonna make a toast. No, then Hector's gonna make a toast. We're gonna see which one's doing it better. And again, the issue I have with it is more so with the execution, because it's like, okay, these do sound like funny ideas, but they're just not really that funny when it all comes together, because it's like, I don't know, I'm just not really getting anything amusing out of it. I feel like these are ideas that I probably could have seen much done better in like a sitcom. Like they sound like typical joke ideas from a sitcom, is what I'm trying to say.
Honestly, the bigger problem I have with this whole thing is that everybody that's not Lori and Bobby are so annoying. because they constantly try to like overthrow each other and be better at this and be better than that. It goes so overboard to the point where they start having a food fight. And I was just getting, I felt in the same way as Laurie and Bobby. I was just so fucking annoyed by this. It's not funny. It's just, God, shut up.
And yeah, and again, it's just us. I mean, I've already seen some people say they found the food fight hilarious, and that's cool. Food fights
Get
can
it. It's
food fights can be
It's supposed to be chaos, but still.
Yeah, I mean, food
Sorry.
fights can be funny, but I don't know. I just didn't really get anything funny out of this scene because, like, the things that were going. Because again, like Yoshi said, I just found the characters here very annoying, and and I thought this. Oh, I almost forgot another thing. The gravy bot. This was introduced in the Act 1. It comes back in Act 2, and I'm just like, what's the point of this? It's like I feel like this is here so that Lisa can make another invention.
Yes.
Or just a lazy excuse to add tension in the second half.
Not really.
Retention.
Not really. I mean, she made that
Not
robot so everybody can get an equal sharing of gravy because, I
What
guess
is
when you got
Lisa
13
now?
people.
Is she Ed from Ed, Ed, and Eddie?
Yeah, but then the robot malfunctions and then everything just gets worse. That's what I mean.
Right, and I'm just like, so that way everyone can have more gravy. Well, why don't you just make more gravy? Oh, we don't have enough room. Buy a cooler with some ice. Like, put it in Tupperware and put it there. There you go. But again, I get why it's here. It's so they can like make the whole scenario even more crazy and insane. Like the tensions are rising, the families are together, it's just going all out. And again, I just didn't feel anything. I felt like this is once again an idea that I feel like has been done before, and there isn't really anything funny that comes out of it.
It makes you go like, why are they arguing again?
It's like, oh, we want to have a better family tradition than the other family. We want to like outdo each other. And honestly, I'm just not really a fan of these kind of stories.
I mean, to be fair, like you do understand their complaints. I mean, they're worried about not seeing their respective oldest siblings or nephews or whatever for a while. But I think the one thing they're always forgetting is that even if they're in college, that universities always take Thanksgiving off.
Right, and not to mention, there's also the solution that comes at the end of the episode, which I'm just like, holy shit, why didn't you just come up with that? Oh, wait, we wouldn't have an episode, that's why. So, anyways, so then that's when Laurie and Bobby, they split, they're like, we're out. And then that's when they go to Flips, and then that's when they kind of tie in the whole narration thing. And for me, this was the best part of the episode, because it's like, they tied in the narration really well into the story. Like, that's why Flip knows all this.
It explained to me why Flip was narrating to begin with. So I went from, why is he narrating this, to, oh, it makes
Now
total
it makes sense.
Yeah. That was like the best thing about the whole episode, how they tied it together. That was really clever.
Yeah.
It actually made me like Flip a little.
Right, so then that's when they're at Flips, and they're like, hey, let's try and make sure we still celebrate Thanksgiving. The families are there, and then it's like, how'd you find us? Tracking devices, which of course is a callback to Spies Who Love Me and Job Insecurity, because, both families have tracking devices. So then that's when Laurie and Bobby are like, oh, you know what? We left because we couldn't take it anymore. And if you guys can't get along, we'll just spend Thanksgiving by ourselves. And then that's when we get the families feeling bad. And they're like, oh, we're sorry. We don't want to be the reasons why we ruined Thanksgiving. And then that's when they make up. And then, of course, that's when Flip throws in the whole solution, which is like, why don't you just rotate out each year? Like, you spend 1 year with the Louds, the other with the Casa Grandes. I'm like, wow, that would have just solved everything right there.
Yeah, my mind at that point, my mind was just been blown
to realize it.
Right, and honestly, I kind of thought, like, unintentional or not, it was probably the best joke in the episode.
Yeah, I don't know. To be fair, I think the joke was kind of poorly executed in that regard because the solution was so simple that if the solution is so simple that a blind person can see it, the joke kind of pretty much loses its value at that.
Yeah. There's actually a theory I kind of had for this episode. There's a couple, which I'll get to at the end of the video, but that's when they figure out the solution, they hug, and then that's when it's like, hey, let's break into a song. So that's when Luna and Hector are doing a duet. That's kind of like doing a traditional Thanksgiving song, but with a Latin twist to it, which I thought was kind of decent. It wasn't anything great, but it was decent.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Even though I will admit, it's probably one of the most cliche things ever to just end an episode out with a song. But, you know what, I'll take what I can get.
Mm.
Yeah, and then that's when we also kind of like get an overview of like all the family members interacting with each other. And I saw it and I was just like, why didn't we just get this throughout the episode? It's like that's actually something that I wanted to see throughout the episode. What kind of parents we get from like each different family member. Like I know a lot of people really want to see Lynn and Ronnie Ann paired up together. I personally didn't, but that's just me. But there were like some other ones that I found kind of interesting, like Carlotta and Lenny. That would make sense. Or Lola and Carlos. That also makes sense too.
Hey, you know what's funny is that this stuff appeared in Fair long before this episode was in production.
Right. So for that, I was disappointed that we only got that right at the very end, and even then, we didn't really get much.
I guess it goes to show that I guess the executives they tend to focus on putting up a stupid plot over like this kind of stuff over social interactions, which would be more interesting. But apparently, I guess they don't think kids would be interested.
Right. So and then the episode ends. So what are your thoughts on Act 2? I hear a lot of sighs.
I'd say overall the episode was still pretty good. Aside from this, like aside from the whole, the dense plot, whatnot, which we've seen before in other episodes.
Mm.
Honestly, when it comes to the second half, oh wait, you go first.
Okay. Honestly, a lot of my thoughts towards Act 2 are largely the same as Act 1. It's like, again, they kind of have these interesting ideas. It's just that they don't really come off all that amusing to me personally. I can see them coming off as really funny to other people, but I don't know. That's just me. Because, like, honestly, like, there were a few moments that I thought... I mean, honestly, I think the best joke in the episode, aside from the solution thing with Flip, was probably the picture joke with Lola. I thought that was kind of funny. And then also the twins as the hall monitor, police, whatnot. That was also kind of amusing. And as far as my other positives go with this episode, again, Flip narrating the story, I liked how that was implemented in the episode. And then the song in the end was decent, but... other than that, I just didn't care for this episode.
Yeah, I feel the same way. As a whole, I think this episode had a lot of good opportunities, but in general, it was just kind of ruined. Honestly, this whole thing, I think I would have been a lot happier with this episode had it just been a more traditional Thanksgiving episode and seeing more of each Loud and Casa Grande interacting with each other. I would have honestly preferred that, because that would have felt more Thanksgiving, and you can still throw in the chaos and everything, but still just the fact that this is just how the families behave. This is a normal thing for them because they're a very large family, so of course things are going to go awry. And you can add a conflict if you want, but you still got to make sure that at the end of the day, it's still meant to be Thanksgiving. It's still meant to be a fun holiday. But they don't do that. They try to add a real serious conflict to add drama to everything, and it just ruins the whole thing. But it not being very funny. The characters were really annoying aside from a few ones. And the gags that they use, which is either not really used that well, serve nothing to the story, or they were just kind of dragged on a little bit. As a whole, I would honestly say this episode was just really boring and forgettable. I can see why some people may like it because, it does have the chaos, it does have the stupid shit, but for me, this is not the kind of stuff I can just get into, honestly.
Well, that's kind of a negative way to put it. Like, you're stupid shit, so of course some people will like it.
Yeah, well, I think the episode would have been...
What I'm trying to say is that there are some people that will like certain things. Some people may not. Some people will. That's just people's perception on it.
Well, yeah. I know Muppet wanted to point this out, but I think the one character I think didn't really get anything to do here was Luann. I don't think she had a single line of dialogue.
She barely had any dialogue in this episode. And it was said that she was going to have more dialogue.
Competition, whatever.
Right, it's like the only time she had dialogue was just...
For some reason, they just didn't give her any because they ran out of time.
Which is funny, because it's like, this is a 22-minute special. You'd think you'd have enough time.
Well, there's sort of another reason I see why the animation's rushed. I don't often talk about this with episodes, but I want to segue into this. Did anybody find the animation in this episode to be kind of poor compared
Yeah,
to other episodes?
yeah, the animation, it just looked off to me. The first example is, it's in Act 1. It's where after Lori sees Turkey Lily in Oz at it, then, like, Luna's standing next to her. Then they have, like, a wide shot, and Luna is literally the same height as Lori. And I'm just like, okay, this
She's
looks
even
weird.
taller than Lenny, and they're both in the same shot. Like,
It was so
what
weird.
happened here? That was strange. And again, everything else just looked kind of rushed to me.
Right. It looked rushed, like as if they had to hurry up with this episode and get it out right around Thanksgiving. Because, like, originally, like, didn't somebody say that it was originally going to come out in January?
I think so.
Which wouldn't make any sense whatsoever.
Honestly, I'm more shocked if they aired this not even on Thanksgiving weekend, because that honestly would have been a better release date.
Well, then again, Lola's Leaping came out a month before Christmas, so there's that.
Doesn't excuse anything. Should come out on Thanksgiving weekend, especially since the next episode that we're going to talk about when it comes out is airing on Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah.
They should have just swapped it around. What the hell?
And not to mention, also with not to mention, I also do get why Love Not Sleeping came out a month before Christmas. One, nobody's really airing any new episodes in December because usually throughout December it's just Christmas specials. And yeah, and number two, they're just kind of like getting in on this early, putting the episode out early, so that way when it's Christmas time, they're gonna air it.
Plus, kids will be too busy playing your new toys and to look at the TV.
Right. So in a way, I do get why it was aired a month before, but I kind of feel like for Loudest Thanksgiving, I think it would have made more sense if it came out the week of Thanksgiving. Granted, it's a week before Thanksgiving, so it's not that far off. But I don't know. And then other animation errors. I think somebody pointed out that in the final shot, CJ's arm was missing.
I think it was because it was behind Lucy's head.
It just looked really well. I think it was the thing with CJ's arm. It just looked really off. Like it looked like part of it was missing, and there was it didn't even look like it was under anything.
It just looked like they didn't put in an arm.
Right.
Let me
Unfinished.
just talk about the animation.
Okay. Anything else you want to say, Muppet, about the animation?
Yes, I looked at the animation more and more through through a filter, and it looks like they use Flash animation instead of the traditional animation. And somebody pointed out to me that shall remain later in this was Savino didn't have any involvement with this episode.
Well, obviously.
Well, this was the first time. I wonder if Nickelodeon said, "Hey, we can't. There's not enough time to finish this, so we're gonna just flash it all up and finish it in like rush production." I know that's happened with a lot of cartoons in the past because I noticed a lot of Flash animation errors, like one of Lenny's eyes being bigger than the other, the lack of limbs on certain characters, sizes changes.
Oh, and there was one part where Lynn, Lynn throughout the episode had her sweatpants, and then in one shot she just didn't.
Yeah, I think this episode heavily used Flash heavily, and they didn't care. Ever used animation like old Hanna-Barbera, they didn't care.
Right. Now, as far as other things for the episode, like, most of the focus here is on Lori and Bobby, and look, ever since Misconnection, actually no, not ever since Misconnection, ever since the beginning of the series, I've just never really gotten the appeal of these two. I don't really care for them as a couple. Like, they kind of come off as, like, one of the most stereotypical high school couples I've ever seen.
Well, when it comes to this episode, I thought they were at least better than most of the other characters, because they
I guess that's true.
They didn't really get on my nerves that much. It's just I still don't really have a reason to really care about them.
Right. And again, I can see why. Ever since Misconnection, they've gotten a lot more love from the fans, which, that's cool. But I don't know. Ever since that episode, I just kind of found them boring. But yeah, that's all I got left to say about the episode. Any other final thoughts?
No.
Like, you know what other episode kind of had some missed potential?
Right.
I'm not gonna say it, but you both. I'm pretty sure everyone knows that it starts with an N.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Uh,
Oh.
okay, so
Yeah.
here's actually something I did want to point out. I almost forgot about this. So
Mhm.
I came up with a theory that for this episode, the reason why Lori and Bobby wanted to get the families together is one of them popped the question of, "Hey, what if we get married someday?" It's like, "Oh yeah, that might happen. That would mean our families would meet for the first time." And we're like, "Well, maybe to help ease the blow, we just have our families together for Thanksgiving." That's what I kind of thought was going to be the setup for why the two families are together. I kind of thought that was the reason why. And
Yeah.
which, I mean, in a way, actually would make sense. It's like when couples do get married, their families do meet each other for the first time.
Weird, which is kind of weird. I mean, you think they would have known each other by then, before that?
Right. And apparently there was a rumor going around. I don't really know who started it, but there was a rumor going around that apparently Lori and Bobby were going to get engaged in this episode, which I laughed at when I heard that. I was like, no way, they're not going to do that. Not for a kid's
Yeah,
cartoon.
that's way too real.
No, they wouldn't do that.
Thankfully, they didn't do that, so turns out everyone was wrong.
Like, well, even though we're on the subject of marriage, but there is one thing I do want to, like, there's one thing I really don't understand about, as far as I don't know, like, it might not be the place for it, but I just think there's some sort of confusion about when it comes to like basically having two siblings who marry another pair of siblings. Like, for some reason, I don't know why it is, but for some reason people just somehow mistake the fact that, like, say if Lori and Bobby get married, I mean, if Lori and Bobby get married, then Ryan and Lincoln couldn't get married simply because they would technically be siblings in law, even though by legal nature it's not the same as actual incest. So they could still marry each other so long as not a one of them are actually married to someone else. And that just seems
Right.
to be some weird misconception that, I don't know. It's just some really stupid theory that some of these idiots in this fandom members just start spreading about. But I really
Well,
think you need to check your damn facts.
I mean, yeah, it's technically not incest, but I don't know, that's still weird. Wouldn't it be weird if you married or dated your step sibling?
No, if you've been friends with them for a long time.
Yeah, I don't know. To me personally, I just think that's a little weird.
Well, it's one thing if you just met them, but if you've known them for, like, since you were kids and whatnot, it's kind of started developing feelings with each other. It really wouldn't be weird at all.
But I also kind of feel like that's why they wanted to focus on Lincoln and Ronnie and being friends, because somebody in the studio was like, "Oh wait, what if Lori and Bobby get married someday? What would that mean for Lincoln and Ronnie Ann?" And so that's where it's like, okay, let's have them be friends. And I kind of thought that was the best move that they could do.
I want to think it would have mattered, but I do think it would have been parents or something that wasn't really an issue.
Right, but I mean, yeah, that's all I got left to say about this episode.
I'm gonna wrap this up on my take. So yeah, as a whole, this episode was honestly really boring and mediocre. If I watched this episode, I don't think I'd really remember much out of the fact that, again, most of the characters were really annoying in the second half. And that's just what it feels like. It feels like this episode had a good idea, but the execution just kind of fell flat. All because the episode was rushed. I mean, the animation errors were obvious. I'm glad I wasn't the only one that noticed that Luna was literally the same height as Lori.
Yeah,
Like,
again, that
what the
was just
fuck?
weird.
But yeah, the episode, it had some good stuff though. Like, Flip was a good character. The way they kind of tied up the narration was really clever. There were a few amusing jokes and the song was nice, but other than that, the episode, I wouldn't watch it again. If you, at least unlike other bad episodes, like say for example, Sitting Bull, I can at least understand why people would like this one because if you want a Thanksgiving episode with the Louds and the Casa Grandes, and it's your typical chaos that you expect from a cartoon like The Loud House, you'll probably love this episode. But there are people like me who just don't always like that because it can get really overboard. So on the whole, this episode, it was just meh. I wouldn't watch it again. Maybe if it like came on a few times, maybe I'd just watch it and, like, whatever. But I certainly wouldn't want to like really want to go back to watch it again like other episodes. But that's me.
Right. Okay. So yeah, that was loudest. That was loudest Thanksgiving, and yeah, that's what we're gonna be doing for each new special. Is like whenever a new special comes, we're gonna like do this. We're gonna like break down everything with it, and we're just kind of like gonna give our thoughts on it because it's 22 minutes and it's just one episode, so it helped stretch out the podcast a little bit longer. So, but yeah, that's going to do. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and look out for the next podcast where we're gonna be talking about really loud music, which that's gonna be coming up pretty soon.
I know you're probably the most excited for it out of all of us, Drew.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
I'm not sure. Like, I'm not.
I don't know. After
fan
seeing the recent promo, I'm kind of worried that the plot involving Luna is going to be more of a subplot.
I hope
looks
it's
like-
not.
I hope so.
It might.
It's
Who
not
knows?
that way. It looks
But-
like they want to have every like loud family singing. Every
I
loud.
don't know. I'm kind of
Please.
to be fair, musicals kind of make it a break for me. I mean, I think Nick's has done a decent job on it because the last good musical I saw was like back in Failure. Our parents did one like about when summer was ending and whatnot. I mean, not summer, but when school was ending for the summer. So I kind of like that episode a lot. I would watch it repeatedly.
Oh, cool.
But we'll see about this one.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the more the issue I have with it is the same with Yoshi's. That even though it's a Luna episode, I feel like it's going to be focused on the Loud family, and we're gonna get a subplot with Luna. Like, I don't really want that. Like yeah, have the Loud sing, but I just don't want them to overtake the episode. It's kind of like the same thing they did with L's for Love, which a lot of people consider that a Luna episode. I don't. I personally consider it a Loud siblings episode, because like Luna's whole thing of her coming out as bisexual, that was more of like. It wasn't really a main focus in the episode. The main focus was still on the siblings, like figuring out who the love letter was from.
For that episode was incredible.
I guess it's just because the reveal was so shocking that I guess a lot of people considered it a Luna episode.
Right.
Yeah, I think to be fair that one of the main reasons I don't like L's for Love is partially because they introduced so many characters that were obviously never going to see.
Alice for Love wasn't technically a filler episode, but the reception was so high.
It's because of that. It was because of that ending. I bet that was probably the reason why.
Probably.
Right. So, alright, so that's going to do. Make sure to subscribe to the Talking Loud channel. Hit a like. Also click like on this podcast.
Only if you want to.
Yeah, and if you have any, and post your thoughts about the Loudest Thanksgiving in the comments down below or anything else. We'd love to see the feedback from you guys. And until next time, I'm CynicTheCritic.
Anglophile Gamer.
I'm Yoshi Player.
I'm still on the bus.
And that engineer. Also,
Go ahead.
also, if anyone has any questions about my stories, then I may or may not answer them. But I'll probably try to answer them as much as I can, because honestly, people have been blowing up my inbox a lot, like both on my Yahoo and on DeviantArt.
Dang, you sound like a busy guy.
Well, did I get favorites in my inbox just about every freaking day? So I just at this point I just like browse, just sideswipe that stuff off.
Alright. And we'll see you next time.